Okay, welcome everybody. So this week's parsha we're learning about Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov's journey to Lavan, his shluchus to go elevate the whole Haran, and he's up for a challenge, right? He has to deal with Lavan, the mastermind, the one who always wants the upper hand, and he comes with a certain focus. He's there to work, he's there to get married, he's there to elevate, and reshape what Haran should be, and do what he needs to do and get out. Next week's parsha, we're going to learn about Yaakov facing his next challenge, which is going to be Esav. So this mimer is going to be focusing on that, and this mimer opens up with Yaakov on his way to Esav, and he has to face Esav. Esav has intentions to kill him. Esav, feels cheated out of the brachas. Esav, is very hurt, and he's marching to Yaakov. So Yaakov, obviously, the first thing he does is, davens Hashem. He sets his army. He sets his position ready for war. Takes care of splitting his family. He's ready to face on. He's asking Hashem for help and guidance. And at the same time, he wants to figure out a way to negotiate, figure out a way how to deal with Esav in a more normal fashion. So the Torah describes Yaakov as approaching Esav with gifts, and he tells Esav, I lived with Lavan, and I had a shire, a mire, tzayin, be'eved, v'shivcha. I had oxen, donkeys, sheep. I had male servants, female servants. And the Medrash goes on to explain that he was telling Esav that the shire represents the kohen that would basically, before every war, the Jewish people had a kohen who would go out in front of the Yidden and tell the Yidden that there's a godly war. This is either a war to take care of Eretz Yisrael or it's a war to defend the Yidden. But realize there's a godly war, and you're going in God's name, and don't be scared. It was to get them excited, get them to get ready. And the Medrash basically says during Mashiach time, there's actually not going to be a kohen, or there's different opinions. It's going to be a kohen and someone from Sheva Yosef. Being that Yosef represents, Yosef has the power to take on Esav, right? Yaakov only considered leaving Haran, only considered facing Esav, facing the challenge of Esav once he had Yosef, right? Because Yosef, for another time, represents the ability to take on Esav. So he had Shur, which Shur represents also Yosef. He says he has Shur. I had the anointed one ready to, take on the battle, to rally up the people for the battle. I had Chamer. Chamer, the Medrash goes to explain this is the donkey of Mashiach. And he was telling him, I have Mashiach, I have the light of Mashiach. And he said, that's fine. I have sheep, which represents the avodah of the Yidden, the work of the Yidden, and I have Eved V'Shivcha, also represents different avodas. So Rebbe goes on to explain, let's break this down a little more. He says, what he was telling them was through me doing the service of Hashem like a sheep, like a servant, I was able to have the chamar, I was able to have the donkey and the ox. So let's just explain. Sheep. When you call someone a sheep, it's usually not such a nice thing to do. You don't want to call somebody, he's a little shepsla. Usually, it terms like he's a follower. He's brainless. He just marches on. He just does, whatever people say. So in reality, being a sheep doesn't have to be such a negative thing. It's who are you being a sheep to? In other words, a sheep is described as a sheep because it goes and it follows without question. It's fully dedicated. In fact, the way they describe it in the Torah is a sheep marches to the slaughterhouse without any questions. No crying, no fighting. A donkey would be stubborn. It wouldn't march forward. A ox would gore its way out. A sheep just follows instructions. So the question is why are we praising the Yidden for having the ability to be like a sheep versus versus other times we say negatively? And the idea is, who are you being a sheep to? Who are you being fully committed to? Who are you ready to go and follow with no questions? So if you're following, a random, person who didn't earn that leadership, person who, like, then what are you doing? When we're talking about Hashem, buying fully in is a very wise choice. In fact, I'm saying a sheep represents Kabbalah soul. Kabbalah soul is me accepting the yoke of Hashem. I accept the yoke, and eventually, originally I could do with my ego. This makes the best sense. I'm saying he's God. He created everything. He knows what's going on. He has a set plan. So I'm buying in fully. And then as I basically go further and further, I could be totally letting go. In reality, I should be able to do it right away. In fact, that's what we're going to be learning. We have the ability to do right away. Um, and it makes sense. So the question is who you're being a sheep to. So the ability to totally let go and to go without any questions is actually a strength. Um, the idea of doing it to the wrong person is a weakness in another place. It's a weakness of decisiveness, a weakness in having your own desires, your own path. But when you're doing it to the right thing, and also this is also to when you have a leader, the idea of Kabbalah to the Rebbe, you're buying in. There is a certain time where there is full buy-in, and that's respectable, and not only that, something to be admired. So Yaakov is telling Esav, I had sign. In other words, I had throughout my time in Haran, I was totally given over to Hashem. It says Yaakov Ish Tam. Yaakov was a simple man, right? Yaakov was a simple man. And what does that mean? He was a simple man. So you have Esav, who's a colorful personality. I'm the best hunter. I'm the richest. I'm the, you know, womanizer. I'm the this. I'm the that. Esav was the best at everything. You have Lavan, who's the mayor of town. Everyone trusts him. Everyone's cheated by him. The rich. There are a lot of colorful characters, and they seem like they have an interesting life going on, but they're constantly having to put up a front. Versus Yaakov is Ish Tum. He's a simple person. I live by my values. I let life show up. So you have Esav and Lavan trying to control the whole world, and they seem very excited, but there's like a certain management that they have to upkeep. Versus Yaakov says, I'm a simple person. I just do what I want to do, which is follow God. So in some ways, who's living a more interesting life? In some ways, who's living a more intense for good or more intense for bad? Um, Yaakov is he's letting life happen, but he's choosing to create in what's happening. Love and Esav have to constantly be controlling. So it's just something interesting. But bottom line is, Yaakov is telling Esav, I had sight. I was given over to Hashem, right? And therefore, because I was a tzine, and I served Hashem like an eved, like a shivcha, which is two different levels of servitude, two different levels of given over, the masculine type, the feminine, which we will have both, and then specifically, obviously, right, if you're male, you have more male, female. So what happens, Yaakov is saying is, I was given over, and because of that, I had shire. I had the readiness to take on the world, the readiness to take on Asa, the readiness to take on the chaotic part of the world. And because of that, I also had Chamar, I had Mashiach, right? And the Rebbe points out this is actually the words of Tzayin. The word Tzayin also come from Tzei, like go out. Tzienu Re'ena, go out and see. When someone is totally given over to Hashem, that they're ready to do whatever Hashem wants, slowly it starts with like a simple servant. But eventually they become like the trusted servant at home. So originally it starts off just given over, but eventually, as they're going forward, they could actually start using their personality, their brain. In other words, when you're building trust in the relationship, there's everything has to start slow, make sure it's done properly. But eventually, the owner of the house says, "Yeah, manage the house. You're doing a wonderful job." Same too with Hashem. As Yaakov is choosing to be given over, he slowly starts having Mashiach life in his Mashiach insight, Mashiach life, to the point where he's able to say, Esav, I got Mashiach in my life. I'm ready to take you on. Are you ready? And then we know the story. Esav was not ready, right? So that's what Yaakov basically is telling Esav. Now here's a situation. The Rebbe says is Torah is from Lashon Hara. Torah is a lesson for all of us, and not only that, not only it's a lesson right? Everything is very close to you. That means whatever Yaakov was telling Esav that he did is a lesson for us, and it's very applicable, and now that's very doable. So Rebbe says, how is it doable? That we should be given over to Hashem that we should start having Mashiach insight in our life, that we should start living with Mashiach, that we should be ready to take on any Esav in our life. Like How does that even make sense? So the Rebbe goes on to say is, oh, because it says as soon as the Yidden do tshuva, they'll have gula. So that's it. If you do tshuva, you have gula. The Rebbe says, okay, that's nice. Another catchphrase. But practically, what type of tshuva could you expect of every single one of us that all of a sudden they're gonna have gula in life, right? Hey, yeah, you're right. Yeah, do tshuva, you have gula in your life. Like most of us are not living at that level where we're ready to start having that. So the Rebbe says, let's start going. Let's understand this by switching the subject, analyzing another part. So the Rebbe goes into say like this. There's a pasuk that says, the akara, which means the barren woman without any children, um, she should be excited when her kids gather in, right? In gathering of her kids. The Rebbe says, first of all, what's going on? Isn't the excitement by having kids? What do I mean? The akara, the barren woman, should be excited. She doesn't have kids, right? And then, second of all, what do you mean she's gonna be excited by the gathering of kids if she's akara, if she's a barren woman? How does she have kids? And if she has kids, how is she called a barren woman? And the Rebbe goes on to say it's actually another pasuk. The other pasuk goes on to say is um, Rani akara layoda. There's a pasuk that says, barren woman, be excited because you don't have any children. She didn't bear any children. So the Rebbe says, what's going on here? So the Rebbe says like this: what is children in our body? What are children like? It's offspring. And what is it in Kedusha? When we sit and contemplate how great God is, we start having children in emotions, which is love. We start having a certain sense of love to Hashem, a certain sense of excitement to Hashem, right? And through having this excitement, that is our emotional children. And then when we sit and contemplate God's greatness, like how wondrous He is, we start having, or how present He is, we start having a sense of awe. These are our children. But the Rebbe says there's also children of Klippa. What's the children of Klippa? When we start either thinking about exciting taivas, so we start having love towards taivas, or we start thinking, what could go wrong in the world. And we start having anxiety. So these are offsprings of Klippa, right? So whenever we're worried about things that are out of our hands, whenever we're worried about the future and we're not present to what's going on, the Rebbe says these are children of Klippa. Whenever we're chasing taivas and everything, these are children of Klippa, the Rebbe says. Rebbe says is what is this pasuk describing when it says barren woman be excited because your children are in gathering, or barren woman be excited because you have no children. This is talking about somebody who has focused himself totally to the point where the only thing he's bringing into his life emotionally is excitement for God, excitement for bringing the godliness out of everybody, the godliness in everything in the world, or off for God, and he has totally learned how to take control of his thoughts, where at this point he's not creating anxiety and fear for things that are out of his hands. He's totally in a state of trust of Hashem, and he's not passionate about worldly things, right? So this person, there's what to be excited. Why? First of all, because he's not distracted. He's not wasting energy on things that are not his. Second of all, when it's time to gather in and calculate, what he has going for himself, he has excitement for Hashem. So this is what to be excited about. So the Rebbe goes on to say is, how do we develop this excitement? How do we make sure that we are focused on Hashem, that our fear and awe is totally about Hashem, and not about worldly things, and how do we stay focused, right? And once again, this is going to answer our question about how doable it is for us to give me a second, to live in a state of Moshiach, right? The Rebbe says the answer to this is there in the Gemara. It describes that a woman who is married to her first husband creates a bond that no other relationship has. And the Dafka, when she's married to her first husband, and she was focused her whole life, and she was tznius, and so there's a certain bond, there's a certain bris, there's a certain covenant that she has. And the Rebbe says is this covenant, this focusedness that the wife has, this actually the others have given us. What does that mean? The Rebbe says like this: the others avoida, the others spent their life physically farming, taking care of their animals, but they spent their life digging wells, also making sure that there was water for their family, water for their animals. And spiritually, what that means is It means creating pathways to receive deeper parts of ourselves. So either creating pathways to receive a deeper part of our neshama, or to be more ready to receive insights from the Torah, which is both. One is coming downwards, the other one's um, downwards from up, and the other one's coming from down upwards. But basically, the Avos have spent their time digging wells, um, which for us practically in our Veda means
What?
Avram spent time Avram spent time sitting and contemplating and creating, a strong sense of love, strong sense of Mesiras Nefesh. Yitzchak created a strong sense of awe, Yaakov, a strong sense of the Paris. But this thing that they created is inherited in us. In other words, when someone comes and says, like, why are you so great? I'm so great. I inherited this from Avram. Avram created pathways for me that's available. And right now we see in psychology, there's family, it passes on to the family, different traumas, different habits, different behaviors. Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov have created a certain bris, a certain readiness that we are ready to receive from Hashem at a very ready level. We're a keli. We're fit to receive godliness. And what does this mean? So, okay, so it's very nice. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov said that the answer is it's also in the beginning of our day, right? We start off our day, however you start off your day affects the rest of your day. And we, during davening, have the opportunity to dig these wells. We start with Maida Ani, start with acknowledging Hashem. Then we start off, then we go to Psukkah where we start acknowledging that every single thing in our life is being brought into existence from Hashem. What that slowly helps us do is it starts rewriting the story around it. In other words, a lot of times, we have taivas, for either for money, for food, for different things, and there's a strong sense I need this. But when I could attribute this to Hashem, a lot of the neediness around this could drop. A lot of the story that's pushing me forward with like a nonstop, to the point where I can't think and ask myself, what am I doing with this? When I let go of it and I actually this is coming into my life from Hashem, or I'm asking Hashem to bring this into my life, it starts creating a looseness, right? And the Rebbe says this is how you make a keli. How do you make a keli? You take a piece of wood and first you chop out anything that's extra around it, and then you could start making a hole. Because during Sukkot Zimra, you're recentering yourself, where basically you're dropping any idea of what different things are by attributing it to Hashem. And you go deeper and deeper, and obviously awakens feelings of love, thankfulness, gratitude. And at this point, you're able to let go of a lot of things. And then by the bracha Krishma, you're able to start feeling Hashem more by acknowledging a higher level of his presence in the world. And at that point, you're slowly a keli to receive and see the world at a deeper place. At that point, you're ready for Shemoneh Esrei, where Shemoneh Esrei, you could start actually davening, being that I'm a light in this world, being that I'm, sent from Hashem, what do I need in this world? And you can start davening, not only for your sake, but for Hashem's sake. In fact, the Rebbe says this is why Shemoneh Esrei is actually written very shorthanded. He says when you actually mean your davening, you actually you actually say it more shorthanded. You have somebody who basically could sit and elaborate. There's actually a story of a rabbi who basically um, um, he basically he married somebody, and unfortunately his wife passed away. And during the Levi, he gave an awesome, amazing, amazing speech. Um, and then when he went to his father to, unfortunately, your daughter passed away, but it's time, what's about your second daughter? And the rabbi and his father said, you gave a beautiful speech by the Levi, and therefore you're not going to be married the next one, because it just the fact that you had such clarity to be able to speak so clearly lets me know how attached you were to the situation. Um, but basically, one of the things of when someone really means something, he says straight to the point, Hashem, please help me in this area. So what happens is we have the ability to awaken what the Avites have created for us and redig that to start feeling Hashem in our life, starting off with Psuki de Zimra, attributing everything to Hashem. And then during the brachas of Krishma, actually getting a chance to feel Hashem for real a bit. And then during Shemati to sincerely say this. The Rebbe goes on to say is this is how we make ourselves a keli to get ourselves to be focused, to only create children in the level of Kedusha, to only start having emotions for holiness, godliness, and to drop that. Now, once again, how is this doable? How is this doable? And the Rebbe started this mimer with and the answer is because we're from the Avos. In other words, in reality, this is not so doable. And the Rebbe is acknowledging it by leaving that as a question. How is this doable? The Alter Rebbe says in a mimer that our avoda is not to actually create the love and fear, because in reality, we can't create the love and fear. In other words, you get excited about things that excite you. That's why certain songs are very popular when they write, about basic things that everyone loves and enjoys. It's easy to have everyone, love the hit because it's just playing on everyone's emotions. Versus, writing about something abstract, it's harder to get people to buy in. It's hard for people to feel along with that. So technically, we're in a physical world. Why should you start feeling love and excitement for something that is beyond you? And so the Alter basically explains is your part is to start making godliness relatable to you. Start making God more real to you by sitting and thinking about Hashem. And Hashem, as a reward for the avodah you're doing, is going to connect something to love and fear. So I'm applying the same to this mimer. The Rebbe is saying is like this. We have the ability to create that all our emotions should be holy. All our emotions should be, and this is very important because the Rebbe clearly says anxiety here is a distraction. Anxiety is because I'm worried too much about stuff that are out of my hand. And the Rebbe is saying is there's a clipatic emotion. And there is a way out by sitting and not thinking about those thoughts, which that is could be a whole class in its own. But the Rebbe is saying it's doable because we are from the Avos and the Avos have dug this out. So what do we have so far in this mimer? In this mimer, Yaakov is telling Esav, I was able to live with Moshiach insight, live with Moshiach real in my life, because I was able to be like a sign. I was able to be given over. And then he goes on to say, how is this doable for us? This is doable for us by choosing to not have children in the Klippa world, which means choosing to stay focused. So what is this mimer inviting us to do? This mimer is inviting us to first of all be ready to be Kabbalah Sol, totally given over to Hashem. Because when you're totally given over to Hashem, you're going to be led and you're going to start doing what's right. You're going to start awakening in you a shire, the anointed one that's ready to excite you to take on Esav. And you're going to start living with Moshiach. But here, the Rebbe is inviting us to take on our machshava. In other words, you could be at sign, I'm going to behave, I'm going to do everything in action what Hashem wants. Where it's very hard to trust and be as sheep is in our thoughts. Because a lot of times our thoughts, like if I don't sit and contemplate this, what am I going to do? We try to be, like we're very controlling with our thoughts. And the Rebbe is saying is, don't be controlling in the fact that you're trying to control the whole world. Rather be controlling by focusing. You can't control your thoughts. Your thoughts are constantly happening. What you can do is manage your thoughts. Proactively create children of holiness. Proactively create emotions of holiness by harnessing your thoughts. Thinking good thoughts about Hashem, good thoughts about people, good thoughts, about trust in Hashem. And like this, you slowly harness yourself to be a keli, to receive a higher way of being. And like this, you'll start seeing Mashiach in your life. At the beginning, it's just going to be Kabbalah Soul. It's going to be a sheep. We're humans, and it sucks to be a sheep. Or else you hype yourself about who you're being a sheep to. Then it could be exciting. Then it could be powering, right? If you're just a sheep, but if like, no, I'm given over to Hashem, that's empowering. I was given over to Hashem in that moment. That's pretty cool, right? If it's like just didn't give in to myself, like that, right? So it's all how you sell it to yourself. There's another area where you could buy in with thought. I am given over to Hashem with my thought. And then slowly, just like everything in life, as you spend time in it, you start being able to be more creative. You start being able to be more mindful. And this is not a bad thing. Because the Rebbe is inviting us, you start off as an Eved, and then you become an Evanem, and you start off as a sheep, but then you start having the oyer, you start having the shur, you have start having the attribute, the readiness to take on Esav, you start having the light of Mashiach. And the Rebbe says, this you actually see. Because the donkey, sorry, yeah, the donkey that represents Mashiach is whose donkey? It was originally Avram Avinu's donkey. It was originally Moshe Rabbeinu's donkey, and then it's going to be Mashiach's donkey. So you want to know how to be successful? You want to know how to start having Mashiach in your life? The first thing you got to do is what Avram did with the donkey. He harnessed it right away in the morning. And then you got to be like Moshe. He rode his donkey. And then you start having Mashiach. Chamor represents the chumrius, the materialistic side of Gashmias. There's Gashmias and then there's materialistic. What do we call a materialistic person? Why do we call him materialistic? Because he sees everything for the matter it is. He doesn't see it for a deeper level. He's seeing everything on a shallow level. What the Rebbe in this mimer is inviting us to do is to harness it. Start thinking differently about everything that we see. Spend time in the morning davening. And when you start doing that, you start being a keli to start seeing stuff differently. And then you'll start having, besides for just following through with your thoughts in a Kabbalah mode, with your actions and speech, obviously also, start having the empowerment to have the shur, the Yosef, the one that hypes you up ready to start being creative in the world, right? Yosef was creative in how to make this more godly. And then you'll start having the Chamar, you'll have Mashiach. L'chaim, l'chaim. May we bring this into our actions, bring this into our day-to-day life, and be able to be very effective in our avodas Hashem. L'chaim. Thank you for coming.